Hello friends. What if I told you that being born on March 12th is more than just a calendar date, it's a cosmic blueprint? That beneath the Pisces sign lies an intricate map of dreams, desires, spiritual awakenings, emotional tides, and even karmic contracts? Whether you're a true believer or just astro-curious, one thing's for sure: people born on March 12th walk through life with a uniquely charged energy. And today, we're going to uncover everything, from their romantic magnetism to their shadow selves, and even the messages hidden in numbers, trees, flowers, and stones. Let's dive deep into the soul of the March 12th person. The sun sign, Pisces. Pisces is the 12th and final sign of the Zodiac, often seen as a culmination of all the lessons, energies, and emotional experiences of the preceding 11 signs. Ruled by Neptune, the god of the sea in Roman mythology, Pisces carries a mystical, often elusive energy. People born on March 12 are some of the purest expressions of this Neptunian influence, introspective, emotionally complex, and drawn toward what lies beneath the surface of life. March 12 Pisceans have an uncanny ability to navigate between the physical and spiritual realms. They often seem to have one foot in this world and the other in a dreamlike state that's both beautiful and frustrating for those around them. They perceive things others miss: vibes, glances, subtle shifts in energy. It's not unusual for them to know what someone is feeling without a word being spoken. They feel before they think, and sometimes before events even happen. This sign is symbolized by two fish swimming in opposite directions, reflecting the duality in their nature. On one hand, they are capable of deep compassion, forgiveness, and self-sacrifice. On the other, they can be escapist, passive, and difficult to pin down. March 12 Pisceans embody both currents, swimming between fantasy and reality with poetic grace. Their greatest challenge is to anchor themselves, emotionally, financially, and spiritually, without losing the dreaminess that makes them unique. Empathy comes naturally to them. It's not something they learn, it's something they are. But with that empathy comes a heightened sensitivity. Criticism cuts deeper, betrayal wounds more profoundly, and cruelty can feel soul-crushing. Because of this, many born on March 12 develop rich inner worlds, places of comfort, creativity, and retreat. These may manifest through music, film, writing, or simply imagination. They are also highly impressionable. The energy they absorb, positive or negative, can shape their entire mood, sometimes their entire day. That's why their environments matter so much. Toxic workplaces, harsh relationships, or even cluttered rooms can derail their peace and focus. In contrast, a supportive, artistic, or nature-infused setting helps them flourish. They're spiritual by nature, though not necessarily religious. They're drawn to mysticism, metaphysics, and anything that helps explain the invisible threads of the universe. Astrology, tarot, dreams, energy healing, all of these resonate with March 12 individuals. They often find purpose in helping others through these means, becoming intuitive counselors, healers, or artists of the soul. Yet with all this sensitivity comes a kind of strength that's often underestimated. March 12 Pisceans are survivors. Their inner life can be a refuge, but also a forge. They often emerge from hardship with wisdom, depth, and a poetic way of interpreting life. They don't shout about their pain. They turn it into music, poetry, or acts of compassion. They alchemize suffering into art. Because of their ever-shifting emotions and intuitive depth, March 12 Pisceans often feel misunderstood. They're not linear thinkers. They're emotional cartographers, exploring inner landscapes most people avoid. But if they can embrace their differences instead of apologizing for them, they often become some of the most emotionally intelligent and profoundly inspiring people you'll ever meet. In summary, the March 12 Pisces is a dreamer, empath, artist, and emotional guide wrapped in a veil of mystery. Their life is a spiritual journey, their presence a balm, and their mind a galaxy of imaginative wonders waiting to be explored. Love, the dreamy idealist. Love for someone born on March 12 isn't a game, a checklist, or even a decision. It's an experience of the soul. When they love, they pour all of themselves into the connection. There's a mystical quality to their affection, a desire not only to be loved but to become one with the person they adore. They don't seek casual flings or transactional connections. Even when young, there's an inner voice whispering, "There's something deeper than this." They are hopeless romantics, though they'll rarely admit it outright. They long for that cinematic kind of love, moonlit conversations, shared dreams, and spoken understanding. Grand gestures don't impress them unless they're sincere. What moves them are the small things: a knowing look, a song that speaks their heart, a text that says, "I felt you needed this today." To love a March 12 Pisces is to love someone who listens between the lines and speaks through energy more than words. In relationships, they are nurturing, affectionate, and highly attuned to their partner's needs. They will intuit when you're tired, worried, or holding back. They'll stay up late just to listen, write poetry about you in their journal, or surprise you with a deeply thoughtful gift that reveals how much they've been paying attention. But there's a hidden current beneath their loving nature. They expect emotional depth in return. If they sense superficiality, disinterest, or emotional coldness, they won't confront it head-on. Instead, they'll start drifting away, emotionally at first, and then physically, like mist burning off in the morning sun. Their capacity for unconditional love is both their strength and vulnerability. They can love someone who doesn't deserve it, hold on to relationships long past their expiration date, or fall for potential rather than reality. Their intuition might tell them something's wrong, but their heart wants to believe in love's ability to heal and transform. This is why many March 12 Pisceans experience heartache more than once in their lives, not because they're naive, but because they believe in love's highest form, even when others fall short of it. However, when they meet someone who understands their emotional language, the connection is electrifying. Their ideal partners are water signs like Cancer and Scorpio, who instinctively understand emotional depth, and Virgo, who brings structure, grounding, and a sense of clarity that helps Pisces stay anchored. Air signs may intrigue them intellectually, but they often leave them feeling emotionally parched. Fire signs may burn too hot, and earth signs, when rigid, can seem emotionally distant. What they offer in a relationship is sacred: emotional presence, spiritual depth, romantic creativity, and unwavering compassion. But they also need protection, someone to help them guard their heart without dimming its light. They need a partner who doesn't just take care of them but also inspires them, believes in their dreams, and lets them be beautifully, vulnerably themselves. In conflict, they often avoid direct confrontation. They don't like raised voices or emotional warfare. They prefer emotional honesty delivered gently. If the relationship becomes too chaotic or emotionally draining, they'll slip into silence or retreat into their imagination. It's not manipulation, it's a defense mechanism for their sensitive soul. When in love, they become better versions of themselves. They create, heal, dream, and build. Their love isn't a possession, it's a sanctuary. But to enter that sanctuary, you must bring truth, tenderness, and the courage to dive just as deep. Marriage. Soul contracts emotional growth. For someone born on March 12, marriage isn't simply a life milestone or a social checkbox. It's a sacred covenant, a soul agreement written long before this lifetime. These individuals often feel as though their significant other is someone they've known in previous incarnations, and whether or not they consciously believe in past lives, they experience love with the gravity of ancient familiarity. To them, marriage is not about convenience or convention. It's about destiny, depth, and divine timing. They tend to approach committed relationships with a poetic heart and a spiritual mindset. They're not looking for just a partner, they're looking for a co-dreamer, a fellow traveler who can journey with them through the emotional and metaphysical layers of life. The March 12 person thrives when the relationship feels meaningful, soulful, and emotionally intelligent. They need to feel their marriage as alive, not just in the sense of daily routines or physical closeness, but in the undercurrent of shared growth, vulnerability, and spiritual evolution. There's often a karmic tone to their marriages. That means they may attract partners who reflect their own unresolved emotional patterns, both light and shadow. Many March 12 Pisceans experience relationships that begin with intoxicating chemistry and romantic synchronicity, only to later uncover deep challenges that require soul-searching. But that doesn't scare them. They understand that real intimacy requires discomfort, and that sometimes love means unlearning and healing together. Their marriages tend to go through emotional waves. There will be moments of magical closeness, late-night conversations about dreams, silent understanding, spiritual breakthroughs. But there may also be moments where they feel adrift, especially if their partner doesn't reciprocate their depth. Emotional neglect, lack of communication, or an overly practical approach to love can leave them feeling unseen and unsupported. If their emotional needs aren't acknowledged, they may withdraw, fantasize about a different reality, or subconsciously seek that intimacy elsewhere. Their ideal marriage involves emotional intimacy, shared creativity, and spiritual alignment. It's not uncommon for March 12 individuals to find happiness with artists, healers, empaths, or spiritual seekers, those who understand the delicate ecosystem of the heart. They thrive with a partner who encourages emotional expression, not one who demands constant logic or perfection. They are extraordinarily loyal when their emotional needs are met, and they often pour themselves into making their partner feel cherished. Acts of love from them are subtle but deeply moving, like remembering an anniversary of a meaningful event no one else would, or writing a letter just because. But the flip side is, they can feel devastated if their gestures go unnoticed or are taken for granted. In a marriage, they need to feel valued, not in a showy or transactional way, but through small, consistent acknowledgments of emotional connection. Many March 12 Pisceans become the emotional glue in a relationship. They intuitively sense when something's wrong and often play the role of the emotional caretaker. But this can become burdensome if their partner leans too heavily on them without reciprocating. They must learn to balance compassion with boundaries, love with self-respect, and sacrifice with self-preservation. They are not immune to the allure of fantasy. If their marriage becomes emotionally barren or overly structured, they may retreat into novels, daydreams, spiritual escapism, or even emotional affairs, not always physical, but deeply intimate nonetheless. This isn't born from malice, but from a desperation to feel again, to reconnect with the ethereal magic they crave. To avoid this, their marriage must be nourished with consistent emotional presence and a shared sense of wonder. Ultimately, March 12 individuals view marriage as a transformative journey. It's less about destination and more about evolution, growing alongside someone, becoming more whole together than they could ever be apart. When in a healthy, emotionally aligned marriage, they shine with grace, softness, and a kind of love that feels otherworldly. Their connection becomes a sacred space, a mirror for spiritual truth, and a living poem written over years. Sex, emotional fusion meets fantasy. For March 12 individuals, sex is never just sex. It's a deeply emotional, often spiritual act of surrender and connection. To them, physical intimacy is a portal, a way to transcend everyday reality and enter a sacred, almost dreamlike realm where souls touch beyond the flesh. This is where their Neptunian influence reveals itself most intensely. Sensuality blends with imagination, and pleasure becomes an emotional symphony. These individuals crave emotional closeness in the bedroom. They can't truly enjoy sex unless there's a feeling of trust, vulnerability, and heart-centered presence. A purely physical encounter, devoid of emotional resonance, can leave them feeling hollow or disconnected. They long for moments where the world disappears, and only the connection remains. Eye contact that lingers, breath that synchronizes, touch that communicates more than words ever could. Their sexual energy is deeply romantic and often poetic. They may not be overtly aggressive or dominant, but their allure lies in their gentleness, attentiveness, and fluid sensuality. They're the kind of lovers who light candles, choose music with intention, and make every encounter feel like a story unfolding. There's artistry in their intimacy. For them, foreplay begins with conversation, shared laughter, and an emotional exchange that builds slowly into something magnetic and tender. Their imagination is vast and ever-evolving. Fantasy plays a central role in their erotic life, not necessarily in a kinky or extreme way, but in a sensual, immersive, almost cinematic way. They might imagine entire romantic scenarios, dream of sensual retreats, or create sacred rituals around intimacy. Neptune fuels this fantasy, allowing them to inhabit multiple emotional realities at once. But this also means they are susceptible to projection, expecting their partner to fulfill a dreamlike role that may not match reality. They're experimental in a subtle way. They are not necessarily thrill seekers in the bedroom, but they are open to exploring emotional and sensual landscapes with a willing partner. They enjoy role play, exploration of spiritual or tantric practices, and experiences that feel symbolic or sacred. Water, their element, is mirrored in their lovemaking, fluid, intuitive, and emotionally charged. Trust is absolutely essential for them to let go fully. If they sense judgment, coldness, or emotional detachment, they will retreat, not just physically, but emotionally. Their vulnerability in intimacy is total, and if mishandled, it can leave deep wounds. They might fake pleasure to protect their partner's feelings, but inside, they'll feel the disconnection like a slow ache. This is why it's crucial for them to feel emotionally seen, not just physically desired. They also have a deeply nurturing side during and after intimacy. Cuddling, whispering, and emotional closeness are just as important as the act itself. They want to feel bonded, spiritually aligned, and appreciated. Aftercare isn't a routine, it's a sacred continuation of the experience. They give their energy fully and expect it to be received and honored with the same emotional sincerity. When sex is aligned with love, trust, and emotional connection, it becomes healing for them. It's where they reconnect with their soul, dissolve emotional barriers, and reaffirm their sense of belonging. But if sex becomes transactional, empty, or manipulated, it can leave lasting emotional scars. They are easily hurt in the realm of intimacy because they expose their entire emotional self in the act. To truly fulfill a March 12th lover, their partner must understand that passion and emotion are inseparable. They must treat sex not as a means to an end, but as a sacred experience, one where souls speak, wounds mend, and two energies become something greater than the sum of their parts. At their highest potential, March 12th individuals are lovers of extraordinary depth. They remind the world that sex can be art, that intimacy can be divine, and that real pleasure begins in the heart, long before it reaches the body. Friendship, the empathic ally. People born on March 12th bring a rare kind of magic into their friendships. They're not the loudest in the group or the ones constantly texting to stay in touch, but when you need someone, really need someone, they'll appear like clockwork. These individuals seem to have emotional radar built into their DNA. They can sense when something is off, even before you've spoken a word. If you're going through a heartbreak, existential crisis, or just a low-energy day, they'll pick up on it through the smallest cue: a delayed reply, a change in tone, a pause between sentences. They don't wait for you to ask for help, they just show up, emotionally tuned and open-hearted. Friendship for them isn't about convenience or popularity. It's about soul recognition. They're the type of friends who remember the details others forget: the color of your prom dress, the exact coffee order you loved in college, the lyrics to a song that made you cry once 5 years ago. They carry your stories with them, almost as if your emotional life is filed away in the gentle corridors of their mind. When you're with a March 12th person, you often feel like you're being truly seen, not just looked at. They're loyal in a way that feels ancient, as if friendship is a spiritual responsibility. They don't flake, they don't forget your birthday, and they don't disappear when things get hard. If anything, they lean in more during difficult times. They'll bring you food, light a candle for you, or send you a playlist that somehow knows exactly what you're feeling. And they do all this without expecting anything in return. For them, love, platonic or otherwise, is about presence, not reciprocity. Humor is another underrated part of their friendship style. March 12th friends have a subtle, dreamy sense of humor, dry, clever, sometimes surreal. They're the ones who will make you laugh in the middle of crying, using humor not as deflection but as healing. Their wit often catches you off guard because it's so entwined with their emotional sensitivity. They see the absurdities in life, and they use humor to gently remind you that even the heaviest emotions can be carried more lightly. However, this depth of empathy comes with real risks. March 12th individuals often attract people who are drawn to their compassionate energy but have no intention of giving back. These so-called emotional vampires feed off their kindness, constantly taking while offering little support in return. This happens not because the March 12th friend is naive, but because they see the potential in people and believe in everyone's capacity to grow. Unfortunately, not everyone chooses growth, and they can end up exhausted and emotionally depleted from carrying other people's unresolved pain. Learning to set boundaries is one of their biggest lifelong lessons in friendship. It's hard for them to say no, to step back, or to cut someone off, even when they know it's necessary. They worry about hurting others, about abandoning someone in need, even when they themselves are hurting. But over time, they learn that true compassion also means protecting their own energy. They learn to differentiate between those who are going through a rough patch and those who have made emotional neediness their lifestyle. Their ideal friendships are emotionally balanced, spiritually aligned, and creatively nourishing. They bond deeply with people who are introspective, artistic, or empathetic themselves. They love having friends they can dream with, talk about the universe at 2 a.m., create something beautiful together, or simply share silence without awkwardness. With these kinds of soul friends, March 12th individuals become radiant, supportive, and even more imaginative. They blossom when they feel emotionally safe. Yet they are not without needs themselves. They may not always articulate them, but they deeply crave emotional reciprocity and quiet reassurance. A simple check-in, a thoughtful gesture, a space where they don't have to be the emotional caretaker, that's all it takes to make them feel loved. Because behind their gentle demeanor is a heart that often goes unnoticed in its own vulnerability. A friendship with someone born on March 12th is not just a relationship, it's a sanctuary. It's a space where you're allowed to feel deeply, speak freely, and be messy without judgment. They don't try to fix you, but they sit with you, making your chaos feel less lonely. And in a world of fast friends and temporary bonds, their loyalty and emotional intelligence make them the kind of people you want to hold on to forever. Business, creative, visionary, slightly disorganized. In the world of business, March 12th individuals are not your standard operators. They're the idea generators, the big picture thinkers, the visionaries who sketch the future with watercolor instead of blueprints. Their minds are rich with creativity, abstract thinking, and a natural inclination toward innovation. While others are focused on logistics and spreadsheets, the March 12th person is dreaming up solutions the rest of the room hasn't even considered yet. Their genius lies in their ability to imagine what doesn't yet exist, and to feel, intuitively, what others will want before they even know it. They gravitate toward industries that allow them to express their creativity and serve others. This is why you'll find so many of them in fields like art, design, film, music, fashion, healing professions, nonprofit work, and socially conscious startups. They are naturally drawn to emotionally intelligent entrepreneurship, ventures that have heart, purpose, and a clear mission. They don't chase status or cutthroat competition. Instead, they ask, how can I create something meaningful? Or, how can this serve people on a deeper level? However, they are not built for rigid systems. The classic 9-to-5 structure can feel like emotional imprisonment to them. Clock punching, corporate hierarchies, and micromanagement quickly drain their creative energy. They prefer environments with freedom, trust, and space to explore. Give them flexibility, and they'll astonish you with their originality. Force them into a box, and they'll slowly lose their magic. Their challenge in business lies in structure and consistency. They often have brilliant ideas that lack follow-through, or they may jump between projects without fully finishing any of them. Their creativity is a river, but it needs banks. That's why many March 12th entrepreneurs benefit immensely from having a partner, manager, or team member who brings practical structure to their visionary chaos. Pair them with a Virgo or Capricorn, and magic happens. They're also prone to undercharging for their work. Because they see their talents as natural, they often assume others can do what they do. They struggle to monetize their gifts because it feels strange to place a price tag on something that flows from the soul. As a result, they may find themselves undervalued or financially stuck, despite having enormous talent. Financial mentorship and coaching can be game-changing for them. Once they learn to value their offerings, they often find success on their own terms. Despite these hurdles, they bring unparalleled heart into their work. They care about the people they serve, whether it's an audience, a client, or a community. Their businesses are rarely just about profit. They want to make art that inspires, create products that soothe, or design services that heal. This emotional intelligence is a major asset, particularly in industries where connection and trust are essential. They are also surprisingly innovative. Their intuitive nature allows them to spot trends before they become mainstream. They may be among the first to adopt ethical business practices, implement AI for creative enhancement, or design emotional wellness tools years before they hit the market. They don't follow trends, they create them. Not because they're trying to lead, but because they're simply tuned into deeper currents of human need. Still, they need to be careful about burnout. Their emotional investment in work can lead to exhaustion, especially if boundaries between work and personal life blur. They must learn to protect their creative energy, delegate tasks that drain them, and work in rhythms that honor their emotional cycles. Their best work often comes in bursts of inspiration followed by necessary periods of rest. When supported and aligned, March 12 individuals can build visionary businesses that not only succeed financially but also shift cultural or emotional paradigms. They're the quiet disruptors, the soulful innovators, the artists who turn pain into purpose and ideas into movements. They may not wear suits or chase unicorn funding rounds, but they're building something far more powerful, work that actually matters. Their business journey isn't about climbing a ladder, it's about drawing a map. One that others will one day follow. Dark side, escapism, victimhood, manipulation. For all their compassion, insight, and creative brilliance, individuals born on March 12 are not immune to the shadows that come with such emotional depth. In fact, their very sensitivity, their ability to absorb the world around them, makes them particularly vulnerable to emotional overload. And when that overwhelm hits, their first instinct is often not to confront, but to escape. Escapism is the most pronounced shadow trait of the March 12 personality. They don't always run in the literal sense, rather, they slip away into fantasy, imagination, or denial. They build emotional sanctuaries in their minds, places where the pain doesn't reach, where no one can hurt them, and where the world operates by rules they can handle. These mental retreats can be beautiful, even creatively useful, but they can also become prisons if they never come back out. Instead of addressing the source of conflict, they'll immerse themselves in a romantic ideal, binge a series for days, lose themselves in art, or sink into the haze of a numbing substance. It's not always obvious from the outside, because they may seem peaceful or introspective. But internally, they're avoiding what feels too heavy to hold. Substance use can sometimes become a coping mechanism. Neptune, their ruling planet, governs illusion, altered states, and the sea of the unconscious mind. This gives March 12 people a heightened receptivity to alcohol, drugs, or any tool that alters perception. When life feels too intense or the pain too sharp, they may turn to these escapes not out of recklessness, but out of desperation for peace. However, this path can quickly spiral, turning temporary relief into dependency. What begins as a way to soften the edges of pain can quietly erode their clarity, ambition, and relationships. Emotionally, they're prone to withdraw when hurt. Instead of expressing anger directly, they often retreat into silence, hoping their absence or melancholy will communicate what they can't say aloud. This silent suffering may appear poetic or mysterious, but it can frustrate those close to them. Loved ones may be left guessing, walking on eggshells, or feeling punished for wounds they don't fully understand. This emotional distancing isn't manipulative at its core, it's protective. But when repeated too often, it becomes a form of passive control. Victimhood is another shadow pattern. March 12 individuals, feeling deeply misunderstood or unappreciated, may slide into a narrative where they're always the injured party. This belief can become self-reinforcing, making it difficult for them to take accountability or acknowledge their role in interpersonal conflict. They may subtly guilt others, weaponizing their own pain in ways that draw attention and sympathy, but discourage honest feedback. It's a kind of emotional camouflage, hiding behind wounds to avoid vulnerability or change. Manipulation, when it appears, is rarely overt. It's quiet, unconscious, and rooted in fear. They may intuit what others want to hear and say it to avoid confrontation. Or they might play the martyr in a way that elicits loyalty, guilt, or protection. It's not evil, it's emotional survival. But it can erode trust over time, especially if they never learn to voice their true needs directly. Because their intuition is so strong, they know exactly which emotional buttons to press, even if they don't always admit they're pressing them. These shadow behaviors are not fixed, they're patterns that emerge when the March 12th individual feels emotionally unsafe or unseen. Left unchecked, they can lead to cycles of broken trust, failed relationships, and inner stagnation. But with self-awareness and intentional growth, these same emotional instincts can become tools for healing and connection. The ability to withdraw becomes the art of reflection. The sensitivity to guilt becomes the power of empathy. The urge to escape transforms into the courage to face life with eyes open. What March 12th people need most is grounding. Rituals, routines, healthy boundaries, and relationships that allow for emotional honesty can help stabilize their world. Creative expression is also key. It gives them a safe outlet for the emotions they might otherwise suppress or distort. Therapy, journaling, spiritual practices, or simply walking in nature can help them reconnect with themselves when they begin to drift. Ultimately, the shadow side of March 12th isn't a flaw, it's the flip side of their gift. Their emotional range, imaginative power, and intuitive insight can either illuminate or obscure their path. But when they choose to bring awareness to their patterns, they become some of the most emotionally evolved people you'll ever meet. Wounded healers who have turned their darkness into light, not by escaping it, but by embracing it. Life purpose: heal, create, transcend. The life purpose of someone born on March 12th is as layered and expansive as their soul. These individuals aren't here for surface-level achievements or check-the-box goals. Their mission runs deeper. They're born to walk the bridge between the seen and unseen, between emotion and creation, between spirit and story. Their lives are meant to be lived like a prayer, a poem, a work of art, offering healing, meaning, and transcendence to themselves and to the world. At their core, they are emotional alchemists. They take pain and turn it into beauty. They absorb the collective sadness and express it through song, painting, kindness, or spiritual teaching. Their ability to feel everything, every shade of joy and sorrow, is not a burden when harnessed consciously. It becomes a wellspring of wisdom, compassion, and connection. Their path is to learn how to feel deeply without drowning, to navigate life's depths without losing their direction. Healing is often a central theme in their life purpose. This healing might begin within, overcoming childhood wounds, breaking family patterns, or learning to love themselves through waves of self-doubt. Once they've done that inner work, they often feel called to guide others, through counseling, coaching, art, or even just by being a soft presence in a hard world. They don't need titles or degrees to heal. Their very energy is restorative when they are aligned. Spiritual awakening is another pivotal point in their journey. Many March 12th individuals experience moments of profound insight, sometimes through crisis, sometimes through beauty, that awaken them to a greater sense of purpose. These moments often feel predestined, as if they've been waiting their whole life to remember something they already knew. After such awakenings, they may change careers, leave behind relationships, or pursue a spiritual path that feels more true to their soul. Their purpose is not just to exist, it's to evolve. Creativity is their compass. Whether they become full-time artists or simply use creativity as a tool for growth, it is essential to their purpose. Through creating, they process their inner world and give others permission to do the same. Their work doesn't just entertain, it awakens. A March 12th person can write a line of poetry that makes someone cry without knowing why, or paint something that feels like déjà vu. Their creativity is a portal, and it's part of how they fulfill their role as a messenger between dimensions. Service to others is another deep calling. They are naturally empathic and often find themselves in roles where they support, uplift, or emotionally guide others. But unlike more extroverted caretakers, they do this quietly, through presence and intention. Whether they're comforting a stranger, rescuing animals, or creating safe emotional spaces for friends, they bring light into dark places without demanding attention for it. Their life is rarely linear. They may go through phases of confusion, self-doubt, or emotional fog, especially in early adulthood. But these aren't detours, they're part of the design. The twists and turns of their path force them to go inward, to discover who they are beneath societal expectations. Once they come through the fog, they emerge with a clarity and softness that's unmistakable. They become teachers, not necessarily in classrooms, but in how they live and love. They are not here to dominate or to accumulate power. They're here to inspire, heal, soothe, and connect. Their presence changes people. Their energy makes the world feel safer, more magical, more bearable. Their life purpose may not always be tied to status or traditional success, but when they align with their soul, they radiate a quiet, undeniable influence. Their destiny is to uplift, through art, emotion, compassion, and spiritual depth. They're not just part of the world, they're here to soften it, to remind others that even in the chaos, there is beauty. Even in pain, there is growth. And even in the darkest night, there is light. Numerology, the power of 3. People born on March 12 are governed by the vibrational energy of the number 3, which emerges from the sum of 1 plus 2. In numerology, 3 is one of the most expressive and dynamic numbers in the entire system. It's the number of communication, joy, imagination, emotional fluency, and artistic self-expression. For those born on this date, this number isn't just a trait, it's a life force. It pulses through their thoughts, their conversations, their work, and their presence. It's what makes them magnetic, memorable, and often irresistible without even trying. The number 3 is a symbol of creative energy in motion. It's about doing something with what you feel, writing it, speaking it, painting it, singing it, sharing it. That's why March 12 individuals are often natural-born storytellers. Whether through words, visuals, or movement, they have an innate desire and talent for expressing the human experience in rich, textured, and often poetic ways. They don't just talk, they captivate. Their voice, whether literal or metaphorical, carries a kind of charm that disarms and engages people almost instantly. Socially, 3s are magnetic. March 12 individuals possess an effortless charm, the kind of presence that lights up rooms not with volume, but with energy. They're the kind of people who can talk to anyone, from the CEO to the barista, and leave that person feeling seen and uplifted. They thrive in environments where communication flows freely, and their greatest joy often comes from making others laugh, think, or feel inspired. They're social, but not necessarily extroverts in the traditional sense. It's more accurate to say they're emotionally expressive, able to share their feelings and ideas in ways that draw others in. They are also profoundly artistic. Whether or not they pursue the arts professionally, creative expression is an essential outlet. March 12 people often excel in writing, music, design, or performance. Even if they work in corporate or scientific fields, you'll find their desk decorated with meaningful objects, their emails unusually well written, or their presentations full of color and metaphor. Creativity isn't an option for them, it's a survival tool. When they're creating, they feel alive. When they're not, they can begin to fade emotionally, like a radio station losing signal. However, the number 3 can also bring challenges. One of the biggest is scattered energy. People with this vibration are often full of ideas, plans, and inspiration, but they may struggle to follow through. They start multiple projects, only to abandon them midway for a new burst of excitement. They may move quickly from one idea to another, which can leave a trail of half-finished masterpieces and unexplored potential. This doesn't mean they lack depth. It means they need systems and support that help bring their visions into reality. Another shadow of the 3 is emotional volatility. Because March 12 individuals feel so much and express so freely, they can sometimes overwhelm themselves and others with their intensity. Mood swings are possible, especially when their need to be heard or understood isn't met. If they're in environments where expression is stifled, or if they feel judged for their emotional nature, they can retreat into silence, not a peaceful one, but a kind that aches with loneliness. Silence, for them, isn't just quiet, it's disconnection. But when their voice is honored, when they are given space to express, create, and connect, they radiate. Their joy becomes infectious. Their ideas become contagious. Their laughter heals. The 3 in their numerological DNA gives them the ability to uplift and inspire people around them just by being themselves. They remind others of the beauty in spontaneity, the strength in vulnerability, and the healing power of creative truth. Ultimately, their life path is about expression. Whether through art, conversation, performance, or emotional honesty, March 12 people are here to communicate what others feel but cannot say. They give language to silence, color to numbness, and rhythm to chaos. Their purpose isn't just to speak, it's to help others feel more fully through what they say and do. When they trust their voice, they don't just shine, they illuminate others. Druid Horoscope, the Fig Tree March 12 to 20. In the ancient Celtic and Druidic tree astrology system, individuals born between March 12 and March 20 are symbolized by the fig tree, a plant rich in symbolism, mystery, and nurturing abundance. This tree is associated with emotional depth, sensual pleasure, wisdom through experience, and the subtle yet powerful growth that happens over time. To be born under the fig tree is to carry a soul marked by tenderness, curiosity, and an unmistakable sense of inner elegance. Fig tree personalities are innately sensitive, not fragile but finely tuned. They perceive life through layers. A conversation isn't just words, it's energy. A song isn't just music, it's memory. A glance isn't just vision, it's emotion. They have a natural ability to detect meaning in the spaces between what's said. This makes them phenomenal friends, artists, counselors, and intuitive thinkers. Their curiosity about human behavior is matched by their empathy, which gives their thoughts a rare emotional intelligence. They are practical, but never cold, deeply emotional, but not erratic. This balance gives them the rare ability to both dream and build. A March 12 fig tree person can write poetry one moment and plan a home renovation the next. They know how to blend imagination with practicality, making them ideal collaborators in both creative and domestic endeavors. They bring warmth and comfort to their surroundings, both emotional and physical, and they tend to create environments that feel safe, beautiful, and alive with thought. Art and philosophy are natural fascinations. They are drawn to questions about meaning, beauty, life, and emotion, and they often find themselves lost in thought, books, music, or even just a view from a window. Their idea of fun isn't loud chaos, but quiet depth. A glass of wine and a deep talk, a walk in the woods with someone they love, or a silent afternoon lost in art or writing, these are the moments where their soul feels most nourished. Sensuality is another hallmark of the fig tree soul, not in a showy or overt way, but in the details. The texture of soft fabric, the warmth of candlelight, the taste of ripe fruit, the smell of skin after rain, these small sensory experiences fill them with joy. They crave touch, softness, intimacy, and environments that soothe rather than overwhelm. In love, they are giving, attentive, and deeply affectionate. They want emotional resonance, not just physical connection. They want to be seen, known, and cherished, and they give the same in return. Spiritually, they are seekers. They may not align with one specific path, but they tend to believe in something greater. The fig tree personality is often drawn to rituals, energy work, nature-based spirituality, or ancestral practices. They don't need dogma, they need meaning. Their spiritual instincts are ancient, as though they've lived many lives and carry whispers of wisdom from each one. They also carry a quiet strength. While they appear soft or gentle on the surface, they are deeply resilient. They endure emotional storms with grace, process loss through creativity, and offer support to others even when they are hurting themselves. Their strength isn't loud, it's rooted. Like the fig tree itself, they grow deep before they grow tall. Their emotional intelligence isn't just insight, it's earned wisdom. They dislike superficiality and detest emotional games. Small talk, pretense, status-driven interactions, all of these drain them. They crave honesty, even if it's raw. They respect people who can speak from the heart, who admit their flaws, who are unafraid of being real. In return, they offer one of the most nourishing presences a person can experience. Their friendship is sanctuary, their love is soulful, their presence is medicine. To be born under the fig tree is to live a life where beauty, emotion, sensuality, and soul are interwoven. These individuals are not here to conquer or dominate, they're here to inspire, to nurture, and to remind the world that tenderness is not weakness, but wisdom in its most graceful form. Vedic Astrology, Purva Bhadrapada Nakshatra. In Vedic astrology, which is rooted in ancient Indian wisdom and sidereal calculations, most individuals born on March 12 fall under the celestial influence of Purva Bhadrapada Nakshatra, one of the most enigmatic and intense of the 27 lunar mansions. This nakshatra, spanning the last degrees of Aquarius and the early degrees of Pisces, is ruled by Jupiter, the great teacher and planet of higher wisdom, and is symbolized by the front legs of a funeral cot, representing both death and transformation, not necessarily physical, but psychological, emotional, and spiritual. It speaks to the shedding of illusions, the sacrifice of ego, and the resurrection of the soul into something wiser, deeper, and more aligned with cosmic truth. To be born under Purva Bhadrapada is to carry within oneself a soul on fire, not with chaos, but with purpose. These are the people who feel life intensely, who see behind the curtain of ordinary existence, and who are often burdened with the knowledge that this life is not all there is. There's a deep pull toward the mystical, the philosophical, and the metaphysical. Even as children, March 12 Purva Bhadrapadas may ask questions that stop adults in their tracks, questions about death, meaning, destiny, and the invisible forces that govern existence. They are the quiet seekers, the midnight thinkers, the students of life's unseen dimensions. One of the most fascinating aspects of this nakshatra is its duality. People born under it often feel like they live in two worlds simultaneously: the material and the spiritual, the logical and the intuitive, the light and the dark. They may present themselves as grounded, calm, even conventional on the outside, but inside they are experiencing deeply transformative processes. This duality gives them a mysterious charisma, a magnetism that draws others in without fully revealing what lies beneath. They are intense but restrained, passionate yet composed, spiritual but skeptical, forever walking a line between two truths. This nakshatra is not about comfort, it's about transformation through discomfort. Life rarely gives these individuals the easy route. Instead, they are initiated into personal power through trials, shadows, and emotional fires. They face pain not as punishment, but as a path to insight. The symbol of the funeral cot isn't ominous, it's symbolic of burning away what no longer serves, letting identities, patterns, and attachments die so that the soul can evolve. Purva Bhadrapadas are capable of going to places emotionally and psychologically that would terrify others, and returning wiser, humbler, and more compassionate. Because of this depth, they often become spiritual guides, counselors, or mentors, sometimes without ever claiming the title. Their mere presence can be transformative for others. People open up to them, seek their insight, or feel strangely healed just by being around them. Yet the March 12 Purva Bhadrapada doesn't necessarily seek out this role. In fact, many resist it until later in life, preferring solitude, study, or silence. But eventually, their inner fire finds expression, and they begin to speak the truths they've spent decades collecting. Their inner world is rich, layered, and always in motion. They are drawn to practices that help them make sense of it all: meditation, yoga, breathwork, mantra, fasting, astrology, sacred texts. They may not always identify with organized religion, but they almost always feel a connection to divine intelligence in some form. When aligned, they can become spiritual powerhouses, combining intellect, empathy, and intuition in a way that deeply serves others. But the journey isn't without danger. When misaligned, Purva Bhadrapadas can become emotionally volatile, deeply cynical, or disconnected from reality. They may spiral into existential despair, believing nothing matters. They may withdraw from the world entirely, or indulge in addictive behaviors to quiet the noise within. Their challenge is to ground their fire, to find spiritual practice and daily structure that channel their intensity into growth, not destruction. Another key theme of this nakshatra is sacrifice. Many March 12th individuals will face periods in their lives where they are asked to give something up, not just physically but emotionally or spiritually. This may involve walking away from toxic relationships, surrendering a long-held identity, or choosing service over comfort. These sacrifices are never pointless. They are the very acts that catalyze the soul's transformation and unlock the next level of wisdom and fulfillment. Above all, March 12th people under this star are old souls. Even if they look young or lead vibrant social lives, there's a depth behind their eyes that hints at lifetimes of seeking, learning, and burning. Their presence has weight, their silence has meaning, and their words, when spoken with intention, can shift people's entire perspectives. To live as a Purva Bhadrapada is to live with one foot in this world and the other in the eternal. Their life may be marked by contradiction, shadow work, and transformation, but in walking that path, they illuminate it for others. Flower horoscope, jasmine. The symbolic flower of March 12th is jasmine, and its meaning could not be more fitting for the layered, emotional, and soulful beings born on this day. Jasmine is a flower that blooms most beautifully at night, releasing its intoxicating fragrance under the stars. In this way, it perfectly mirrors the nature of the March 12th soul, radiant, sensual, and mysterious, but often misunderstood or overlooked in the harsh light of day. It is under emotional moonlight that they truly shine. Jasmine represents purity, spiritual love, sensitivity, and resilience, all of which are core traits of those born on March 12th. These individuals carry an energy that feels both innocent and ancient. There is something timeless about them, something that makes people lean in without knowing why. Like the flower, they are gentle on the surface, but they exude a kind of quiet power that fills a room softly, without demanding attention. They are deeply intuitive, often knowing what others need emotionally before those people even realize it themselves. This intuitive empathy is not just a trait, it's a way of life. They pick up emotional subtleties like a radar, and because of this, they can often feel overwhelmed in loud, chaotic, or emotionally dissonant environments. Like the jasmine flower, which thrives best in calm, temperate conditions, they too need a kind of emotional sanctuary to flourish. Yet despite their sensitivity, jasmine personalities are stronger than they seem. In fact, they grow stronger in the dark. Just like the flower that releases its full perfume only when the sun goes down, March 12th individuals often discover their strength, beauty, and voice in life's hardest moments. They don't crack under pressure, they transform. Breakups, betrayals, failures, these don't define them. They refine them. They are the emotional alchemists who turn darkness into fragrance. There is also a romantic mystique about them. They don't love loudly or performatively, but deeply and with devotion. When they fall in love, it's not just a fleeting crush, it's a spiritual bond. Their love is layered with care, touch, meaning, and an almost telepathic level of emotional understanding. They express affection through softness, a thoughtful note, a handmade gift, a quiet gesture that says, "I see you." But they also crave to be felt in return. Their heart blooms in the presence of real intimacy. Creatively, jasmine personalities are full of inspiration. Poetry, music, design, dance, scent, and color all speak to them on a soul level. Many have a natural talent for making the world more beautiful, whether through literal art or the way they carry themselves and curate their lives. Like jasmine vines, they reach outward with subtle grace, bringing light and elegance wherever they grow. They also carry a spiritual energy. Jasmine is associated with the divine feminine, and this mirrors the inner divinity March 12th individuals often express through compassion, intuition, and service. Even if they're not traditionally religious, they usually have a deep belief in unseen forces and a relationship with beauty that feels sacred. Their spiritual practice may be quiet, but it is deeply woven into their being. However, like jasmine, they can be easily bruised. Harsh criticism, coldness, or betrayal can cause them to close off or retreat. They need environments and relationships that feel emotionally safe. But given the right emotional climate, they thrive. not just for themselves, but for everyone around them. Their energy is nurturing, calming, and quietly healing. In essence, to be a jasmine soul is to be soft and strong at once. It is to love quietly but fully, to sense deeply but remain resilient, to bloom in spaces where others wither. Jasmine doesn't beg to be noticed, but once you experience it, its scent stays with you forever. So too does the presence of a March 12th individual, intimate, soulful, unforgettable. Stone horoscope, aquamarine amethyst. For those born on March 12th, the stones aquamarine and amethyst are far more than decorative gems. They are spiritual tools, emotional companions, and energetic anchors in a world that often feels too loud, too fast, and too shallow for their sensitive souls. These two crystals are uniquely aligned with the Piscean essence, amplifying the best traits of the March 12th personality while gently helping to soften the shadows. Aquamarine, with its cool, watery blue hue, resonates perfectly with the element of Pisces, water. It's a stone long associated with the sea and the soothing rhythms of waves, symbols that mirror the emotional depth and intuitive currents of those born on this date. For March 12th individuals, aquamarine is like an internal ocean current that brings calm during emotional storms. When their thoughts become chaotic or their emotions overwhelming, this stone works like a tuning fork, returning their energetic field to harmony and clarity. Wearing aquamarine or keeping it close allows March 12th Pisceans to filter their feelings through a lens of detachment, not coldness, but clear emotional perspective. They often absorb the emotions of others, sometimes so deeply that it becomes difficult to distinguish their own feelings from someone else's. Aquamarine acts as a cleanser, helping to separate their inner truth from external noise. It allows them to feel without drowning, to care without losing boundaries. Aquamarine also sharpens intuitive communication, a vital trait for this naturally empathic sign. It helps March 12th people articulate what they usually sense but struggle to put into words, be it their emotions, creative ideas, or spiritual insights. For anyone born on this day who works in healing, teaching, therapy, or the arts, aquamarine can act as a channel, facilitating honest, heartfelt expression that flows as effortlessly as water. And yet, emotional calm is not the only gift of this gem. Aquamarine is also associated with courage, a trait often needed by those who feel deeply. It gives March 12th individuals the strength to confront emotional truths, release toxic relationships, and step into their authenticity without fear of judgment or rejection. It doesn't blunt their sensitivity, it strengthens their spine so they can carry it with grace. Amethyst, on the other hand, taps into their mystical side, their ability to journey beyond the veil, to commune with energies and ideas that many others can't access. This deep purple stone is the crystal embodiment of spiritual protection and psychic balance. It resonates with the crown chakra, the energy center of divine insight, making it the perfect companion for the deeply intuitive, often clairvoyant, March 12th soul. For those navigating deep emotional or spiritual territory, through dreams, meditation, or creative trance, amethyst serves as a kind of cosmic seatbelt. It allows them to venture into altered states of awareness without becoming ungrounded. Many March 12th individuals are drawn to the esoteric, astrology, tarot, energy work, metaphysical philosophies. Amethyst supports this exploration while shielding them from energetic overload, confusion, or manipulation. Amethyst is also powerfully associated with addiction recovery, something relevant for March 12th individuals who, when overwhelmed, may turn to escapism through substances or unhealthy coping behaviors. This stone doesn't just offer protection, it offers healing, helping them find their way back to clarity, purity, and inner peace. It reminds them that their true power lies not in avoiding pain, but in transforming it. Emotionally, amethyst helps with balance and integration. It soothes anxiety, eases depression, and calms erratic thoughts. For the Piscean nature, which is susceptible to emotional highs and lows, this stone offers a steady heartbeat, a spiritual rhythm that keeps them from spiraling too far in any direction. It helps them channel their deep emotions into creation, rather than self-destruction. Creatively, amethyst acts like a spotlight for the subconscious mind. It helps bring buried insights, symbols, and emotions into conscious awareness, making it an ideal stone for artists, writers, and musicians born on March 12. It enhances imagination while also improving focus, making it easier for them to complete the projects they start and bring their inner visions to life. When used together, aquamarine and amethyst become a perfect polarity, water and ether, heart and spirit, clarity and vision. They support the March 12 individual in their quest to remain emotionally open while staying spiritually protected. One grounds them in the present moment, while the other opens the door to higher wisdom. Together, they act as sacred tools for a soul that's constantly swimming between realities. For optimal support, these stones can be worn as jewelry, placed near a bed or workspace, or used in meditation. They should be cleansed regularly, especially by moonlight, a natural ally to the Piscean energy. In a world that can often feel overwhelming, these stones do not harden the March 12 individual, they help them remain soft and sovereign. Sensitive and strong, dreamy and deliberate, they remind them that their emotions are not a weakness, but a compass, and that their intuition is not a burden, but a gift meant to be cherished and shared. Summary: who is the March 12 person? To understand a person born on March 12 is to step into a world where emotion becomes language, dreams become maps, and intuition becomes a kind of quiet superpower. They are not ordinary souls walking through life in a straight line. They move in spirals, guided by feelings, symbols, synchronicities, and inner truths that often escape the notice of others. Their lives are never surface level because they are wired to seek meaning, connection, and soul in everything they do. At their essence, March 12 individuals are dreamers, not in a naive sense, but in a sacred one. They dream of better worlds, deeper relationships, and lives infused with beauty and truth. Their imagination isn't escapism, it's the place where inspiration is born. They often turn that imagination into something tangible: a song, a conversation, a social cause, a spiritual breakthrough. Even when their heads are in the clouds, their hearts are grounded in empathy. They are also healers, whether officially or informally. Their compassion runs deeper than sympathy, it is empathic. They feel what others feel, and they are often the emotional center in their communities. Friends turn to them when in crisis. Strangers confide in them without knowing why. Their kindness is rarely performative, it's reflexive. Helping others makes them feel whole. Yet beneath that gentleness lies a powerful spiritual rebel. March 12 people often question the status quo, not to defy it for its own sake, but because they instinctively know there is more than what meets the eye. They challenge societal rules, emotional facades, and superficial narratives. They hunger for truth, cosmic, emotional, or philosophical, and they'll walk away from comfort to pursue authenticity. They may seem soft-spoken or gentle, but their inner world burns with passion, integrity, and a quiet kind of revolution. In their best light, they are emotionally rich, creatively brilliant, and deeply connected to the human condition. They can cry at a painting not because they're fragile, but because they are wide open to beauty. They can start a nonprofit or a spiritual practice not because it's trendy, but because their soul insists on meaningful work. They lead through feeling, not force, and inspire others to do the same. But when overwhelmed by life's noise or their own emotional undercurrents, they may flee from reality. Escapism, self-doubt, fantasy, or emotional withdrawal can become coping mechanisms. If they aren't grounded, they might sabotage relationships, ignore responsibilities, or silence their gifts out of fear of rejection or misunderstanding. Their emotional sensitivity, left unmanaged, can become emotional volatility. Their intuition, ungrounded, can lead to confusion. Their lifelong mission is a balancing act: to love without losing themselves, to dream while staying grounded, to feel deeply without becoming lost in the depths. When they master this, they become radiant forces of creativity, healing, and quiet leadership. A March 12 person isn't here just to survive, they are here to transform themselves, others, the world around them. Through empathy, imagination, and soulful expression, they leave behind something intangible yet unforgettable. the feeling of having been seen, touched, and inspired by someone who understood not just your words, but your heart. Want to keep diving into zodiac secrets, personality deep dives, and cosmic truths? Like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you never miss a chance to discover your next inner layer. Check the links in the description for more astrology, numerology tools, and spiritual deep dives. And remember, your birth date isn't an accident. It's your signature in the universe. See you in the stars.